Hey guys, how are y'all doing today? Hopefully is nothing short of well. Today in this little video, or probably not little, as it might reach about an hour, maybe plus, is just kind of another one of those episodes or discussion videos where I just kind of talk about myself and a bit of a get to know me kind of thing. I've done this for the past two videos on my channel where the first time I played Transformers Devastation, went through the campaign once, and talked a lot about how and why I love Transformers so much, and how I got into it. And then most recently, excuse me, I discussed why and how I love pro wrestling, and yeah, it's just I really like doing these videos because I feel it really allows me to open up to you guys, the viewers, if anyone has any questions or anyone has any, things that they're curious about. As oh, I wonder, why he does all this on his channel and not, Expanse Horizons or whatever may have you. So yeah, it's just I kind of want to take today to kind of explain why I love Star Wars so much. And in the background, we are going to be having Star Wars Battlefront 2 EA Edition, as I like to call it, Battlefront 4, because that's what it is. It's the fourth Battlefront game. But and for those who don't know, the way that I display this video, the way how I'm able to get this video from onto YouTube is through Mixer. So I do this via stream on Mixer, and then I download the VOD and post it on YouTube for later viewing. And so for if anyone who's in the stream, I'll kind of acknowledge their existence and see if they have any questions for me. But if not, no big deal, because there's always you guys, the present viewers as of right now, who can jump into the comments section, ask their questions, ask your questions if you happen to have any. So, as always, if you guys enjoy this, please feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe, awesome stuff down below, and be sure to hit that notification bell, because that's the one I always forget about. So do not forget to hit that notification bell so you can be notified immediately when I post a video. So, I guess without further ado, oh, also one thing I'd like to say. I noticed in the last one there was like a 5-second pause before I did the intro. So the reason that is because with Mixer, I know that I've streamed before, like in the past, and I kind of started right away. Like right as I hit the start button, I immediately started. But then when I went back and watched the VOD, it was like 5 seconds short of the actual intro. Like it didn't get the "Hey guys, how are y'all doing today?" So I usually wait 10 seconds before. Or no, I wait 10 seconds after hitting the start broadcast button so that it's able to pick up my audio so that you can hear the entirety of it. So that's the important thing, right? But anyways, so I guess hopefully this will be picked up while I turn down the master volume so that it's way down. I think it might even be into the negative, so you might not be able to hear it at all. Which is hopefully the case, so you can hear me 100%, which so that the audio doesn't balance out and you can hardly understand me when I'm shooting guys in the game. But anyway, so I guess we can get started with this whole thing. And for those who don't know, for those who don't know me kind of on the personal level, I am a huge fan of Star Wars. Star Wars has been a huge part of my life for a very long time, as long as I can remember, to be honest. I grew up with the movies, with the VHS editions of, sorry, I just want to fix something really quickly. With the VHS editions of the classics of A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. Though this wasn't the original, this was like the special edition, the one that was released in '99, I believe, as part of the VHS. It was like a gold box set. For those who know what I'm talking about, it's the gold box. But yeah, no, I love those movies very much. Of course, I did not grow up in '99. I was born in 2002. So you guys can do the math right there to find out how old I am. Uh, just so you know how uh, how long of a Star Wars fan I've been in such a, I guess, kind of a short amount of time. Um, Come on, man, why aren't you fellas active? Um, yeah, so growing up on those movies was awesome, and it was also me growing up on The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. And then I think it was 3 because Revenge of the Sith came out in 2005, so um, up until that point, of course, I had seen no Star Wars films in theaters because I would have been 3, so even if I did see in theaters, that wouldn't even count because I really don't even remember if I did, which I most likely didn't. So yeah, growing up on those movies was awesome, and I'll never forget the fact that I have like multiple copies of like Revenge of the Sith and multiple copies of the prequel trilogy. So yeah, it's just I grew up as definitely a casual Star Wars fan. I had all the toys because I kind of inherited them from my brother, just because he was growing up and he didn't play with the Star Wars toys anymore, so I just kind of got them. And so after that is just my love for Star Wars had kind of been certified at that point because I had all these toys and all that my parents had got me, and all the ones that I gotten from my brother, which he actually had quite a lot of them, considering the time and all that. Yeah, so growing up, I would definitely say that my favorite movie of them all was Revenge of the Sith. I don't say this now, so please don't jump into that dislike section, hit the thumbs down. Please don't do that. Revenge of the Sith is not my favorite movie, unless you do like Revenge of the Sith, because if so, I like Revenge of the Sith too. It's just not my number one. And so my philosophy on Star Wars movies is that I like all of them unless their name is Rogue One, because I just don't like Rogue One, and I'll definitely explain that later. And I apologize if someone has a different viewpoint on that and they actually really enjoy Rogue One. It's just I feel like that's not the Star Wars movie for me. Anyways, so yeah, growing up, I was a huge fan of Revenge of the Sith just because I was blown away by all the CGI and all the like huge scale battles and all, like the full scale war that's going on. Like for example, the Battle of Utapau with Obi-Wan and Grievous, and the 212th and all the droids are all fighting all over the place, and Order 66 with just all the clones, and I was such a huge clones guy. I still am a huge clones guy. Yeah, so over time, I religiously watch the Star Wars movies. I watch them annually pretty much, if not more than that. And over time, I kind of moved past just the movies, and then when I was exposed to the idea of YouTube, when I was very young, whether it be like 9 or however old I was, I go on and I start watching these fan films of Star Wars, which I adored the fan films, and I still do today. As much as I don't watch them as much as I used to, I adored them. And the number one fan film of Star Wars that I just absolutely loved as a kid, and I still have so much respect for today, was the Darth Maul Contract of Evil. And if anyone's never heard of it, or if you have heard of it, I do highly recommend giving it a watch or a second watch. Like if you have seen it, it's been a while, I definitely highly recommend giving that a second watch, because that is such a fantastic fan film. And it's set in the prequel times, of course, set before the Phantom Menace. So that's kind of the gray area of the Star Wars universe as of this point in time. But yeah, so I absolutely love fan films, just all the hard work that these avid fans put into it to put out their own kind of Star Wars universe, and that was so awesome. I respect that so much today. So yeah, I highly recommend fan films if you guys are, kind of the casual Star Wars fans, watch the movies. I highly recommend getting to the fan films because they are fantastic. No pun intended there with the word fan. I guess it kind of doesn't become a pun when you explain it. My bad. Um, but yeah, so it's just I loved all the movies. I love the fan films, and then another thing that I kind of grew up watching was the Clone Wars, not Star Wars the Clone Wars, but Star Wars Clone Wars, the cartoon animated volume series or whatever you want to call it that had that kind of like Samurai Jack art style to it. I absolutely loved that. I had the first volume on DVD at the time, and I watched that a whole bunch just because I was such a huge fan of it. And of course, I, being the huge fan of clone troopers and all that, I absolutely loved the ARC Trooper scenes with Captain Fordo and the Moonless 10. It's just fantastic. So yeah, then I go back and again with the whole annual watching Star Wars films. I start to get this idea that, hey, maybe Revenge of the Sith isn't my favorite, and so I kind of go on this weird journey of self-discovery to find out what my actual favorite Star Wars movie is. And so I watch them all, and I'm like, which one do I think is the best? Because this is all from my point of view. The mind of like a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old or whatever is like trying to find out what his favorite Star Wars movie is. So eventually I came to this conclusion that Return of the Jedi was my favorite Star Wars movie, and I held true to that for a pretty long time, I'd say, or not long time, like considering like years and years and years, but in the span of the child mind, that was kind of a long time. So then 2009 kind of rolls around, and as does Star Wars The Clone Wars, the Cartoon Network animated show that kind of closed the gap. Is close the gap the right term to use, the right phrase to use? But anyways, it lifted the fog on what was the time between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. So, of course, it was Clone Wars and clones, so I love it. Still, huge fan of clones. Always have been, and always will be. But yeah, so the Clone Wars comes out, and I am immediately hooked on it because I watched the Clone Wars movie that came out kind of as an introduction to what the show is and what the show would be about. And getting introduced to this idea that Anakin has a Padawan, and it's like, what? Anakin had a Padawan? That's crazy. You never see this stuff in the movies. And so, yeah, it's just I was immediately hooked on the Clone Wars. I was definitely a big supporter of it, and still am today. Hashtag Clone Wars saved. So yeah, it's great that they had this show for the Star Wars fans, so that it's not like, oh, we have to wait until a movie comes out so that we can actually be Star Wars fans again. No, you can actually have a show to watch that's like dedicated to like Star Wars in that era. So it was really cool. And yeah, and the Clone Wars show comes out. I of course, being a kid that watched Cartoon Network all the time, I watched the premiere of the whole series with episode 1, Ambush, which I thought that episode was fantastic. And then, of course, as a result, I get all the Clone Wars toys, which, love them, still love them today. Wish that the quality of the product is as good today as it was back then, in that time. So, yeah, the Clone Wars is just such a fantastic thing. And so, years go by, 2010, 11, 12, still watching Clone Wars, still absolutely loving it. And at this point, I had gotten into watching stop motion, which, for those who don't know, is a animation style where this is just one example, but you have like, an action figure, and you have, your camera, and so you take a picture of them when they're in a stationary pose, and then so you take the picture and then you move them just ever so slightly, and then take another picture and just, create this create a scene through it. And so I was super into that. I absolutely loved stop motion. I love Star Wars stop motion. I love basically any stop motion. It was Lego oh yeah, huge on Lego also. Big Lego Star Wars. I would admit, unfortunately, that I'm not as much nowadays. I definitely tuned out the kind of Lego part. Every here and then I'll be like, oh yeah, that looks cool. I kind of want to get that, but do I get it? No. Um, I definitely look at these sets and I'm like, oh, that looks pretty awesome, but I don't know if I really want to get it. I don't know if I'm gonna, do anything with it. But yeah, so I'm huge on stop motion, huge on the show, huge on the movies, and at this point, I kind of move away from the fan films. And so yeah, it's just it's this crazy thing with my fandom of Star Wars, and then I start really learning a lot of it because I start reading the books and all that came out in the 90s and the early 2000s that kind of told this story after the original trilogy, that told a story after Return of the Jedi, where you learn what Luke does with his life and what Han and Leia do with their lives and all that. It was the coolest thing ever. And so I just kind of learned about that. I really just scratched the surface with that, but I picked that back up later on. So yeah, and then 2013 and 14 goes on, and Clone Wars kind of starts to come to an end, and 14 I think it was. And I was kind of bummed out about that, but I still had them. I had them on DVD. So, and I still have them on DVD, so every here and then, I'll go back and watch them because, gosh, the show is just fantastic. Like, you really can't say, like, honestly, that Clone Wars was bad. From my viewpoint on it, I feel like it's a really difficult clause to make that Clone Wars is a bad show. Because, the character dynamics were just done so well. The voice acting, the plot, all of it, is non-plot hole creating or non-contradictory to the established Star Wars universe, unless it explains why Anakin's really like emo in Episode 3 compared to his attitude in the Clone Wars, which I'm sure that will be explained in #Clone Wars Saved Season 7. If that's what it's going to be, or it's going to be Season 6, even though technically the Lost Mission is Season 6. Anyways, so yeah, I start calling myself this great Star Wars fan, and yada yada yada, more on that later. Yeah, so 14 rolls around, and then the trailer is dropped for Star Wars The Force Awakens. And I'm sitting there, my mind is absolutely blown, because it's like, oh my gosh, they're making a Star Wars movie. They haven't done that in 10 years, which is crazy. 2005, which was Revenge of the Sith, and then 2015, which was The Force Awakens. So yeah, totally awesome that for me personally as a Star Wars fan, like being able to live in an era of Star Wars when it's all fresh in the people's minds and fresh on the media and fresh in theaters and all that. It's like that's the coolest thing, because growing up, I really wish I were a part of that. I really wish I would have been a part of the Star Wars movement that happened in the 80s and would continue into the early 2000s, just because it was such a cool time period to be a nerd of Star Wars. And so yeah, so 2015 at this point, still mega Star Wars fan, as I still proclaim myself to be, and so my mom and I go to see The Force Awakens in theater, and what a movie. And some might argue that it's it's just a ripoff of A New Hope. It ripped off so many ideas and all these little concepts, like, oh, you know, they had a Death Star that needed a trench run for and blew it up, and oh, you know, there's this big, you know, thing going on with what is it? Or, you know, kind of ideas from Empire Strikes Back too. It's like, oh, there's this mysterious guy in a hologram, and this dude with a Vader mask that's kneeling down to him in this big room, and blah blah blah. Personally, I don't care, because as much of a Star Wars purist as I think I might be, in the sense that I believe that the book lore, the lore told in the 90s with the novels and all that, I believe that that is my Star Wars. Even though I have that viewpoint, I don't believe that The Force Awakens is a bad movie. So yeah, I thought The Force Awakens was a awesome movie. I thought it was a fantastic movie, and it's definitely a movie that I love to go back and watch. So yeah, 2015 comes to a close at that point, and then 2016 is when I start, for me personally, I start getting into stop motion. And my first comes out at the end of 2016 in Transformers: The Awakening. I already did my Transformers kind of synopsis on myself in the Transformers Devastation video, so feel free to go check that out to get my Transformers history. But yeah, so then in late 2016 and into 2017, I started doing Star Wars stop motions, which at the time I had only made 2. They were Skirmish on Sullust, which was the first Star Wars stop motion I had ever done. The story about it was Green Company, which is a certain team of clone troopers, of course, you know, green, believe it or not. A group of clones are kind of ambushed, or not really ambushed, but you know, they're outnumbered by this great number of droids, and basically have to hold the line until reinforcements can arrive. And so they lose some numbers, and then eventually Quinlan Voss, a Jedi Knight / Master, shows up, saves the day, and the clones, you know, just kind of are saved, and kind of ends there with what are those droids called? I can't remember what they're called. The ones from the Clone Wars movie where Ahsoka like trips and she lands on the wire of it and it activates it. I can't remember what those droids are called. Oh, dang it. Some sort of like super droid or something. But anyway, so yeah, it's, you know, one of those guys shows up, and then the next stop motion I would do Star Wars related was the battle on Bathawai. So this video still blows my mind today, because as of right now, as of me recording this on August, whatever today is, August 4th, I think? Yeah, August 4th, at 10:36 p.m. This is Battle on Bathawai is my most highest viewed video on my channel, despite it being like my 3rd or 4th stop motion I ever made. And really, the quality of it is not good. Compared to, well, you know, of course that's subjective, but from my viewpoint, with how much I improved with my recording like standards and frame rate and all that, like, I am amazed that video is where it is, and still blows my mind today, and I can't be any more thankful, I don't think, that that viewers kind of thought, you know, that this was a good one. And at the time it probably was. It was probably my best one at the time in January of 2017, but nowadays in 2019, not as much. But yeah, no, so I'm totally honored to have that many views on a video, like 23,000, almost 24,000, I think. Which is totally mind-boggling. But yeah, so did I get anyone on it? No, I didn't. Dang it. But anyways, so yeah, so I kind of drop off the radar in sense of making Star Wars stop motions, just because, of course, at the time Transformers was kind of my priority, and as of right now, it kind of still is. yeah, so then we get into 2017, and Star Wars: The Last Jedi comes out, and it's just so I'm sure that the majority of those who view this video who have an opinion on the movie believe that it is not good, that it is a bad Star Wars movie, that it is just another kind of ripoff of other things that are already said, and it's too funny, and a lot of things are contradictory, and a lot of plot points don't match up, and yada yada yada. Okay, so I believe that again, no Star Wars movie is bad unless it's called Rogue One, because that's just, you know, my kind of viewpoint on it. Which, you know, I don't want to have to say this, but it's 2019, so I kind of have to. Everyone, you know, is entitled to their own opinions, and I respect everybody's opinions, and mine are my own. So I believe that Rogue One is a not great Star Wars movie. It might be a bad Star Wars movie, and I really like The Last Jedi. In fact, this might bring up a lot of red flags. The Last Jedi is my second favorite Star Wars movie of all time on my list right now. So I apologize. This might be one of those red flags, like, oh, unsubscribe, or oh, dislike the video, or blah blah. I'm sorry if that's the impression that's given by the fact that I just said that The Last Jedi is my second favorite Star Wars movie. But yeah, so I apologize. But yeah, no, it's just I like it just because I really like the special effects that they did. And I'm huge on character dynamic and character development, and to be honest, Kylo Ren is one of my favorite Star Wars characters just because of the journey that he kind of goes on throughout these so far 2 movies, and about to be 3 at the end of this year. Which, so yeah, I'm really big on the Kylo Ren bandwagon. So that's part of the reason why I love The Last Jedi. That's probably most of the reason why I love The Last Jedi so much. On top of that, just the like, you know, this could imply that the factor that lots of ideas were taken from Empire Strikes Back, which I'll give that update right now. I said that Return of the Jedi at the time was at whatever time it was when I was like 10 or 11 trying to soul search myself. I said that Return of the Jedi was my favorite. This changed years ago when I decided that Empire Strikes Back was my favorite Star Wars movie, just because it's just one of those movies where, like, the stories going on are so, like, I don't want to say believable because it's sci-fi, but it kind of is, because you have this guy who, you know, grew up as a farm boy, who's really starting to learn a lot about himself and a lot of things about this universe that he just suddenly became a part of. Because, you know, that just kind of happened in the sense that, like, oh, Luke, guess what? Your dad was a Jedi, and there's this evil dude, and they're trying to destroy the universe and take it over and blah blah. Even though, you know, that's just a very casual perspective on it. I have a totally different, you know, understanding of that, but I'm just giving that kind of relatable point of view, a certain point of view. But yeah, it's just, I love that story, and I love the relationship that Han and Leia have throughout the movie. It's just, it's such a great thing. And the Darth Vader character development, from being this really tough bad guy to actually being an understandable character in Empire, is just, it's great, and I love it, and I love the story, and I love everything about Empire. There's not really anything that I dislike about it. So that's, you know, if I have this Star Wars movie that I say that I have nothing to say that's bad about it, that definitely makes it my number one, because I would say that every other Star Wars movie I do have something about it. And you know, I'll probably explain that in a little bit. But yeah, so like I was on about, Last Jedi comes out, and I see that one in theaters as well, with my grandparents and my, like, you know, kind of extended family. Is that the right way to say it? I don't know. I'm sorry that I'm unprofessional going into this, that I'm lacking the knowledge of right terms to say. But yeah, so see that in the theaters. Um, and I, love that movie as well. Um, and so going forth, still, loving everything about Star Wars. And so here's where I start to explain why I have this great point of view on myself, where I think that I'm like one of the best Star Wars fans ever. So first of all, that's just kind of a thing for me to say about myself, just for no real reason. That could totally be subjective, and can probably easily be overruled by anyone. Even though I would say that, so I talked a lot about this in why I love pro wrestling. I just kind of have a mind for the in the business, and mind you, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm not trying to sound like I have this massive ego, because it's really non-existent. I'm just kind of, this is me kind of explaining, um, kind of explaining my passion for Star Wars. Come on. But yeah, no, it's just I really do have this kind of mind for Star Wars, where it's like I can just kind of explain a lot of things. And so, for example, like I'll be talking with Riley and my friend Alpha 3 Dog, for those who are semi new to the channel and don't know him as much of a regular as he is. But yeah, it's like, he'll ask this, or he'll say this, and I'll be like, well, Riley, you see, blah 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 blah, and I'll just kind of keep going on and on and on. It's like I imagine in his mind he's like, shut up already, I get it, you're a Star Wars nerd. So sorry, Riley, if that's the impression. But yeah, no, it's great, because I love having that kind of connection with my friends, being able to just talk about Star Wars with them, because it's a great thing to talk about if you guys are like, nerds or whatever, and just kind of want to talk about something that you feel passionate about. And so yeah, it's just I love that. And so I like to express that I have this great knowledge for Star Wars. And the truth is I'm not trying to amount for something that I might be lacking in, because I love to express that I'm like an open book. If you guys wanted to ask me any question about Star Wars, like, I'm down. I'm totally down to answer a question, because I love answering questions. And like kind of the same thing with me and like wrestling, or me and like Star Wars. If someone has a question, like, I'm totally down to answer it. Like, my hand will go right up in the sky. Like, you guys can ask me. But yeah, no, it's just, I love having that. And that, might be kind of a selfish thing to say, and I apologize if it is. But it's just, it's just kind of how I look at it. It's like, I love kind of being in that position, kind of being an open book per se. Yeah, no, so then stuff kind of goes on. I'm still avid Star Wars fan, of course. Why wouldn't I be? And I'm still watching these stop motions, because that's kind of, what my channel had become centralized off of, was the fact that I was doing stop motion. And so yeah, so I keep watching stop motions, and I feel really inspired to start doing Star Wars stop motions. But at this point, I'm just like, I gotta kind of prioritize, set some boundaries here. I really want to work on Transformers for a while, and that's kind of where I'm heading. But we get to 2019, which is this year, believe it or not, and as kind of a how can I explain this? It's kind of a way to keep people, like, I don't know if occupied is the right word, but while I'm working on Transformers, while Transformers is like my #1 goal, I do like these little Star Wars stop motions that really aren't long. They're, at most like 3 to 4 minutes. They don't really have any like major thing going on for them. It's just, a certain conflict that usually gets resolved within that 3 or 4 minutes. And so yeah, it's just kind of a thing for people to kind of watch and just be like, oh, okay, he can do Star Wars stop motion stuff too. So yeah, where was I going with that? Yeah, so it's just kind of a, I guess, maybe appetizer might be the right word. I'm not entirely too sure. But yeah, so I definitely do love doing them. I don't look at these Star Wars stop motions like, oh, you know, well, I just got done with the Transformers stop motion, so I gotta make a Star Wars one, so people will still be interested in my channel. Half of that is true, because I always want for you guys to be interested in the content I'm making. But I never really have that attitude towards making a Star Wars stop motion, just because, like, that's what I want to do once I'm done with Transformers. Which, like, of course, I'll never be done with anything on my channel, like Transformers. Like, once I'm done with Aftermath and just all the Awakening saga in general, I will be temporarily done with Transformers. Like, Transformers will not be the norm. And so I'll definitely move into Star Wars as my, as kind of my big, you know, stop motion priority. Just because, like, I feel like I can bring a lot more when it comes down to it. And believe me, guys, believe me, viewers of all kinds, I already have a lot lined up. I have so much stuff planned out in regards to doing Star Wars stop motions. If you know, if I were to show you guys like my Google Docs of how many Star Wars stop motions I have, you'll probably be blown away. Because like every here and then, I'll be working on Transformers, and I'll just be like, oh, wait, maybe I could do something like that for Star Wars. And so I'll immediately go into Google Docs and be like, okay, all right, we can base like a story around this. And so yeah, that's just kind of where it goes from there, is that I just start jotting down all these ideas, and I start making all these scripts for Star Wars, which I'm sure will come to light very soon. I would hope so. Hopefully that I don't just start making new ones afterwards. I kind of want to use the stuff that I already planned out first. But yeah, so it's really cool. So definitely expect that in the future once I'm done with the Transformers stop motions. Yeah. So, anyways, I guess I'll kind of get to where I draw the lines with certain movies in the Star Wars universe. So. I'll do them in order, right? So, not in order of most liked to least liked or vice versa. I'm just kind of doing them in chronological order of how, you know, how I look at the movie whenever I want to watch it or whatever may have you. So, with The Phantom Menace, it's not all that high up on my list, but I do like it, even though, you know, of course the prequels do get a lot of hate. Because Jar Jar Binks or whatever. To be honest, I don't judge a whole trilogy based on one person. I judge it based on its continuity with itself. So yeah, I do like The Phantom Menace because, again, it's hard for me to not like a Star Wars movie unless it's Rogue One. So yeah, it's just, you know, I really do like The Phantom Menace. It's not that really high up on my list, because it's not that I hate The Phantom Menace, and this I'll say about every other movie as well. It's not that I hate this movie, it's just I like other ones better. And that's kind of that's my attitude when I go into a Star Wars movie. It's not that I hate it, it's just I like other ones better. So yeah, you know, Phantom Menace, I think it's a good movie, but it's just, you know, not that very high up. And then you got Attack of the Clones. Definitely a lot lower on the spectrum, just because it does have a lot of plot points. Because it's funny, because a couple months ago, I actually went back and watched the prequels, minus Phantom Menace because I couldn't find it. Yeah, so I went back and I watched Attack of the Clones and I watched Revenge of the Sith, or maybe I got halfway through Revenge of the Sith. I'll be honest, because I was tired and I went to bed. Yeah, so watching through Attack of the Clones, there is a lot going on in it, where there's just a lot of things, like too much is happening, really. So, and the opening crawl is really one of the most essential things of Star Wars, because it gives you an idea of what is going to be the big topics of this movie. It's kind of like, you know, a preview into what you're going to be getting. So, with it, spoiler alert, of course, ahead. So, in the opening crawl, they discuss how the Separatist alliance is starting to happen, where thousands of systems are breaking off and are talking about war and rebelling against the Republic, and the government and whatnot. And so it's like, wow, this is huge. Like, so many systems are suddenly breaking off and they're threatening war? Like, that's crazy. That should definitely be like a huge focus of the movie. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. It was not that big of a focus in the movie at all, really. Which is really unfortunate because they really, like, there was so much that they could have done with it. Also that's kind of why I'm not breaking down Phantom Menace, is because I haven't watched it recently, so I don't really have anything to say to you guys about it. Aside from just what from everything that I remember watching it the last time I did, which I don't remember how long ago that was. So it's great. Yeah, so it's like you have all these plot points that they, kind of bring out, like, oh, thousands of systems, and they're led by this guy named Count Dooku. It's like, oh shoot, who's this Count Dooku guy? He sounds like a bad guy, for the sense of, for a sense of oh hey, there he is right there. For a sense of like having a villain with a really cool name that like really gets you going, like, oh, who's this guy? But yeah, so then you have Count Dooku and all these systems are breaking off, and then all of a sudden like there's thinking that Amidala, princess, what's this, queen, senator, one of those, Amidala, Padme, is in trouble, and that there might be an assassination attempt on her life, might be, and so the movie of course opens up with that, with the assassination attempt and blah blah, and so yeah, it's just that was a good start, but after that, the Jedi Council and the senators had this little meeting in the Chancellor's office about the Separatists, and they don't really talk all that much about Padme's assassination attempt, really. Don't really make it that big of a deal. And it's like after that, you hardly ever hear about the Separatists ever again, which to me, I'm huge on factions in Star Wars. I love the idea of faction warfare and stuff. Hence why, I'm also big into wrestling and Transformers, just because I'm huge on faction warfare. And so you have the Republic, who are like kind of in trouble at this point because they don't know what's going on. Well, like, they know what's going on, but they don't know to the extent of what's going on. And so they're like, shoot, we're in trouble. And in this movie, they really focus on the smaller things a lot. I'm not saying that they do this all the time, but they do it a lot. Because a lot of the focus is Padme and Anakin, and kind of developing their relationship. And it's like, sure, you can do that. I'm not opposed to it, as a, even though the chemistry between Aiden Christensen and Natalie Portman wasn't that great. But it's like, that was really the focus of the movie, which is kind of upsetting, really, because I wanted to learn more about the Separatists. Yeah, so then the next time that you really hear about him is when Obi-Wan goes to Geonosis and kind of uncovers their big plot to assassinate Amidala. It's like, oh no, they're trying to assassinate Amidala? It's like, we didn't know that. What? This is news to us. We did. But yeah, so it's just, those are really like my big things with the movie, and it's like, I wish that they had focused on the bigger things at hand instead of just the assassination of one person, as opposed to the whole scheme of things, which they really emphasized it at the end, because it's like, okay, clearly the Separatists are a little more well organized than initially thought, because at first it's like, oh, just a bunch of systems are breaking off, right? Turns out that the Trade Federation are involved, the Techno Union are involved, all these other companies and all these all these other groups are involved with the Separatist Alliance, and it's like, well, shoot, we're kind of in the thick of it. It's a little more of a problem than we initially thought. And so then you see this huge war go on Geonosis, the first battle, day 0 hour, as it were. And yeah, it's crazy with all that. And so crazy with how quickly things just went, how quickly things became so serious. Um, but yeah, so it's just, that's really my big thing with Attack of the Clones, and then you have Revenge of the Sith, which I think is great. I really do like Revenge of the Sith. It's, of course I like other movies better. I think it had a really good thing going for it. I feel like a lot of the character dynamic was going really well. It's just they introduced people too fast and then killed them off too fast. Because you have like guys like General Grievous and Count Dooku, who is really introduced only in the third act of Attack of the Clones, and then he's in the first act of Revenge of the Sith, and then he dies. It's like, oh, okay, why are we supposed to kind of care about this guy again? So that's just another thing with it. And then General Grievous, of course, and but other than that, I thought the movie was really good. There's I'm sure I'm probably forgetting a lot of aspects, and if you guys post in the comments what I might be missing out on, or what I might be leaving out unintentionally or intentionally, please feel free to address that in the comment. But yeah, so then you have Rogue One, which I don't like, or no, actually you have Solo, which alright, Solo is just one of those movies where I kind of have mixed feelings on it, because like I thought it was cool for an origin story, but just one of the big things with it is that they introduced too many things too fast. Kind of the same thing with Revenge of the Sith, because you have Han Solo, and who meets Chewbacca, and he gets all these things. He gets the Millennium Falcon. He meets Lando, and gets his signature blaster, and all this stuff just really happens too fast. And then he learns about Jabba the Hutt also, and just all in the same movie. And it's like, what? Hang on. And obviously they are intending on making a Solo 2, so I just hope that they tone things down big time with that movie. I don't hate it, again, because the only movie I really don't like in Star Wars is Rogue One. But yeah, so it's just Solo. They did a lot with it in such like a short amount of time, because however long the movie spans, like they did so much in that short amount of time. And he made the Kessel Run too. Can't forget about that. And also just the fact that they made it look like he isn't that good of a pilot, because how they explain it is, oh, Lando's droid is uploaded to the computer, so she helps navigate and really makes the Falcon such a good ship. So it's like, okay, well, way to bury Han, way to make it look like he's not that great of a pilot, which I still believe he is, no matter what. Like, he hypes himself up all the time, and way to just put him down like that. Are you kidding me? Yeah, no, so it's just, all in all, like, Solo's just kind of one of those gray area movies for me. I do like it. I appreciate it for what it tried to do and what it did, and kind of for what it didn't also. I'm just glad it didn't do more. But yeah, so it's definitely just one of those gray area movies for me. So I don't hate it, but I definitely don't love it. But then next up you have a movie that I do not like, and that's Rogue One. And the thing about it, I'll explain definitely, because I've been hyping this up so much why I don't like this movie. I'll for sure explain with what I hope for you, the viewer, is logical reasoning as to why I don't like it. Number one is that the characters are blander than a stale piece of bread, is the best way how I can describe it. The characters were highly unrelatable on many parts. They really don't have any story going for them that I can consider relatable to me, which all the other Star Wars movies have that. They all have that sort of character anxiety or whatever character progression that I can find relatable to myself or relatable to another human being, which that's a huge part of what makes Star Wars so awesome. But yeah, it's just Rogue One did not do it for me. All the characters are not that memorable. I think that's the idea. Because if the idea was to make these characters not memorable, then they did a fantastic job. The only characters I remember were by name. Like I remember all their faces, I just don't know their names. It's because like either they had super forgettable names, or like you know, they just you know weren't, their story was not done very well. So you have Jin, right? You have Cassian. Um, K2, is that the droid's name? The droid was awesome. The droid was the best part of the movie. And Darth Vader. Darth Vader is also the best part of the movie, which is funny because, you know, my favorite character is a character that's not even exclusive to the movie, which I find kind of funny. Yeah, so then you have Krennic, Director Krennic, Grand Moff Tarkin, of course. Yeah, I don't remember anyone else's names. There was Bodhi one of them? Was he like the pilot guy? I don't remember the dude who was like blind and he was force sensitive, you know, I'm one with the force with me. I can't remember what his saying was. It was such like a meme, I think, at one point. I don't even remember that. And there was the big dude with the gun that was kind of his sidekick. And then that's all I can remember. That's all I remember of this movie. And then there was Saw Gerrera, who was a character from the Clone Wars, so of course I remember him. Yeah, so it's kind of crazy. How it's just, you know, you build up all these characters I really do not remember for the life of me. And this isn't intentional. Like, if I am actually trying to remember these characters' names, and I can't. Yeah, it's just, I didn't like Rogue One. And also another huge reason is because we're getting another story, another Star Wars story, ding, wink, as to how the Rebels got the Death Star plans. And this one might actually be one of the best ones, just because of how, like, hand-in-hand it is. Because, spoiler alert, again, the ending of Rogue One is literally the beginning of A New Hope, which is really crazy. And I love stuff like that. I love the tie-ins. I'm huge on tie-in and continuity. But, yeah, so, like, the ending of the movie was probably the best part of it. And just any Darth Vader scene, and K2, again, if that was the droid's name, I don't even remember. Like, it's his scenes, Vader scenes, and the last scene of the movie, which are all my favorites. So, that really doesn't do a lot for me. For a 2-hour movie, I only enjoyed about, like, 7 minutes of it, maybe 10, maybe? So... yeah, and it's just, we've gotten so many incarnations and so many interpretations of the Death Star plans and how they got them. And I actually heard this not too long ago, or actually this might have been a while ago, I can't exactly remember. But someone explained that the best way to look at it is that the Death Star plans were broken up into pieces. And like the ones that you have in Rogue One is just one little bit of it. And then another bit is the one in Star Wars Battlefront 2 OG, not this one, not this... yeah, the other one, the better one, the best one. Those plans, they have to recover in that. And then the ones in Dark Forces, which for those who don't know is a classic Star Wars game made in the 90s, which was heavily inspired by Doom. Just the kind of gameplay style of Doom, but Star Wars Dark Forces was really the first to emphasize the idea of 3D in the Doom style of game. So, yeah, that was really cool. But anyway, so Dark Forces also has a interpretation of getting the Death Star plans. And so with Rogue One, it's like, ugh, we're getting another one. But, alright, so here's the contradictory point that I just said, how it's like, oh, you know, they're split up into different pieces. Here's the thing. So, once Disney took over Lucasfilm and every aspect of Star Wars ever, it's monsters, they basically ruled all the Star Wars games as non-canon, aside from anything that would be made after Disney's horrific takeover. Even Republic Commando, those monsters. And in a bit I'll talk about the video games aspect of Star Wars, because I know it's kind of a bit that I left out. I'll have a little section dedicated to that. Yeah, so they basically ruled all the games as non-canon, which again, those evil monsters, how could they do that? And the books as well, as everything else that was not made after their horrific takeover. Yeah, so the whole idea that, oh, the Death Star plans were split up into little sections, scratched off, because Rogue One emphasizes that those are the Death Star plans, the one and only Death Star plans. So there you have it, folks. It can't be split up into pieces unless there's some form of Disney canon that contradicts that I don't know about, because I'm not too huge on the Disney canon. Unless it's like Rebels, because I think Rebels is pretty cool. Yeah, so there's that. And so yeah, it's just, that's the reason I don't like Rogue One. It's just because it's just another story, another Star Wars story, wink wink, about how the Rebels got the Death Star plans, and all the characters were very, very bland, and yeah, just very unrelatable in every aspect. Did not like Rogue One, so that one's immediately off the table for me when it comes down to, do I like a Star Wars movie? No, I don't like Rogue One. But then moving forward in the chronological order of Star Wars movies, as opposed to my own little list, we have A New Hope, or just Star Wars for those who are the classics. Ace Spacey, wow. But yeah, so A New Hope, one of the all-time greats, because it really set the tone for a new era in film history in general. It's such a historic movie when it comes down to the history of film and how it's progressed over the years. Star Wars really set the tone for that. A New Hope really set the tone for that. So A New Hope, while it doesn't rank the highest on my list, it's definitely alongside some of the best ones that are the highest ranking on the list. And then we have what is my favorite Star Wars movie of all time, what is my number one and cannot be beaten. That is Empire Strikes Back, because I explained this earlier. It's just, I feel like the character dynamics and the character's journey and all that, it was the perfect story to be told for a Star Wars character. And I love just all the sceneries that come about in the movie, all the planets that they go to, all the set pieces that they're on. It's just, all of them were so satisfying in a sense that it's like, wow, these really get my attention. And so yeah, I really did like Empire Strikes Back, of course, because it's my number one. So then after that, we have Return of the Jedi, which for a long, or not a long, for a period of time, was my favorite Star Wars movie, just because it was that ultimate ending. It was the ultimate ending where it's like you have this final confrontation between Luke and Vader that really decides the fate of the galaxy. And it's just, that big fight feel. For those who are gamers and understand, the severity of the situation, it reminds me a lot of like Mass Effect, with that like kind of huge battle at the end. That's really just a bow for the universe, for the galaxy, or kind of like Halo, and also for like Halo 3, or whatever game it may be. That really has that conclusive ending that really brings everything together. It's great. Yeah, so why it doesn't rank very high, and it's funny because last year I actually was talking to my English teacher about this, because he is also a huge Star Wars fan. We were discussing this, in which Return of the Jedi, while it was a great movie and it had a great narrative, there was kind of too much for it. It really emphasized that grand finale kind of movie, because it took a lot and just threw it in. Like, you had Han getting rescued on Tatooine, and then, they're cute little teddy bears, and the fate of the world is all of a sudden rests upon our shoulders, and it's just all this crazy stuff that's just happening all too fast. It's like, Yoda died, what? And then Leia's Luke's sister, and whoa. Um, so, and then, oh, Leia's force sensitive, and blah. Um, so yeah, it's just, a lot does happen, but I still, that doesn't really take away how much I enjoy the movie, because I do absolutely love Return of the Jedi. And after that, we have The Force Awakens, the first ever Star Wars movie that I saw in theaters, and I am very proud to say that because I love The Force Awakens. I thought it was a fantastic movie. Again, I've kind of already explained the thought process of it, so I'll just kind of move on. And with another movie, I already had the thought process on, The Last Jedi. Another movie that I really regard as one of my all-time favorites for reasons, again, that I've kind of said earlier. So, yeah, it's my number 2, which is pretty crazy. I didn't miss anything, did I? I don't think so. Anyway, so let's get into the video games. Alright. Video games are, of course, a big part of my life, a big part of the friends of mine, big part of their lives, and so hence why a lot of us get along so well. Yeah, video game aspect of Star Wars has been such a huge thing for me. Just it definitely solidified a lot what couldn't be done in the movies. So I grew up on these classic Star Wars games for like the PC, like and also for the original Xbox and the PlayStation 2, which PlayStation 2 is a huge part of my life at the time. So yeah, I totally grew up on games like Star Wars Battlefront 2 OG, also Battlefront OG. Those games were my top favorites of all time. I always loved playing them, and I played them really to the fullest extent. Like, I really went all in, double or nothing for the Star Wars Battlefront games. And I even went so far to watch on YouTube how to kind of break the game. So with those who might know what I'm talking about, in Battlefront 2, when you're doing a space battle, you can, like, when you get into a starfighter in a starfighter hangar, if you just keep hitting the takeoff and land button, if you just like mash the takeoff and land button enough times, you can get out of the ship and still be doing it, and then you'll eventually land on top of one of the support ships, one of the acclimators down below. And it's just, then you can get out of the ship and walk around out in space, and it's just like, wow, this is so awesome. And yeah, that was so much fun. I absolutely loved that game. And one of my childhood friends, he would always come over and we'd always play it, and it's just, we always had a blast playing it, whether it be split screen or him watching me or me watching him, just whatever. Playing Star Wars Battlefront 2 was a huge thing. So definitely a fun time to be a Star Wars fan. But then we got into Xbox, the original Xbox, because I had a 360 at the time, I think. I don't think I had Xbox Live. And I also had an original Xbox in which I played Battlefront on there, because I have Battlefront for basically everything. Played that, played Knights of the Old Republic, even though, like, I didn't have the patience at the time. I wasn't following that Jedi way at the time. When it came down to playing that game, because you need to have a lot of patience with that game, and I wasn't really good at it either, because I wasn't really good at those kinds of games with those RPGs, MMOs, or whatever you want to call them, because I'm not that well versed with the lingo of video game society. Yeah, no, I did like KOTOR for the time when I was playing it, but it was just really hard for me to get into it. But nowadays, like, that's a totally different standpoint. But yeah, and then I had these games. I played Clone Wars Adventures, which that might sound like an old record to those who were PC gamers, and played Clone Wars Adventures, because for those who know and for those who played it, that game was really an adventure, and no pun intended when I say that, because that game was just so fantastic. Even though I hated microtransactions then, I still hate them now. I just wanted to get that Commander Neo armor. I just wanted to get that Commander Wolf armor. I'd actually pay money for it. Didn't do it, by the way. Spoiler alert. Um, but yeah, so Clone Wars Adventures was so much fun. But then they went up and shut it down. I believe that this was after the Disney takeover, so it's like another thing they took away from us. But yeah, Clone Wars Adventures was awesome. I loved it. It's one of those games I'll just always remember playing on PC just because it was such a fun time, and I was able to do a lot of things that were just such a blast. So yeah, that was absolute fun. And then Star Wars Republic Commando. Oh my goodness, one of the greatest Star Wars games, if not the greatest Star Wars game of all time. Like, wow, what a game. It's a game that I actually have never finished to this day. I don't think I've ever gotten close, really. The only, as far as I've ever gotten in, was maybe like the third mission or the third like section on the second mission, which would have been the Republic Assault Ship Prosecutor. Yeah, that's just about as far as I've ever gotten into it, but I know basically everything about the Republic Commando games, so yeah, it's just, what a great game. It's so good. It's such a great FPS. It's so innovative with what it was doing at the time with squad commands and all that. It's just, I really can't say enough good things about that game, except for the fact that we didn't get a second. Thanks for canceling all those projects. LucasArts new director guy that got hired after the other dude left. Also, The Force Unleashed. I played The Force Unleashed on the PS2, which I believe is the better one. I actually recently watched a guy kind of do a review on it, and he's like, I don't see why they said that this game was better than the Xbox 360 version. To be honest, I still believe that it's better than the Xbox 360 version. That's just, you know, I absolutely hate to remind, but that's just my opinion on it. I love that game and think that's better than Xbox 360 version. Anyways, then, you know, I became obsessed with the idea. It's like, oh my gosh, Force Unleashed, I need to play Force Unleashed 2. So eventually I got Force Unleashed 2. Played the heck out of that, loved it. Still like the first one better, and I still do today. Yeah, it's lots of great games that I played. And then also in the PC world, we have Empire at War, which, for those who don't know, is a strategy game. A huge strategy game in which you take control of a faction, whether it be, you know, the rebellion or the Empire, and or if you're playing the Forces of Corruption edition, then you can play as the Dawn Consortium. Yeah, so then you're in the galaxy map with all these different planets that you can go to, and you have all these different units that you can build and make and all that. And it was just such a fun game. I still have like high regard for it being like one of my favorite Star Wars games of all time, if not my favorite Star Wars game of all time, aside from Battlefront 2 OG. I really can't say enough good things about Forces of Corruption and Empire at War. But one thing I would like to say is I just wish I had a good enough computer to where I could actually get the mods for it, because the mods make it even more fun. Yeah, Empire at War is such a great game, and for anyone interested, I highly recommend giving it a look, because it's a very innovative game. Yeah, so then, you know, you have kind of your typical modern day Star Wars games then, like this one, and Battlefront 3, as I like to call it. And then just recently, not too long ago, for Xbox Gold, they made Jedi Academy free, which is a game that I actually hadn't played before, even though I know plenty about it. I know about, you know, the mods that come with it on PC. I know plenty about Jedi Academy. I just never was able to play it. And so then I downloaded it, I played it. I haven't beat the campaign yet. I'm actually on the final boss, who is Marco Ragnos possessing Tavion, and it's like, that's such a hard fight, I don't want to do it. And I might not. I have it on my ready to install right now, so that's probably a sign of things to not happen. Yeah, so just I really love that game. And also a game I forgot to mention that I played growing up was Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast. I downloaded, or no, I looked up all the cheat codes for that game that you could imagine. I think every single cheat code in the game I looked up, and I applied them to my ability, like you wouldn't believe. So yeah, it's just that was also a huge game for me. It's absolutely loved it. And I would hope to play it again sometime soon, whether it be on PC or on Xbox. So yeah, those are just kind of all the games that I've played over the years. And yeah, so it's just, I'm big on the Star Wars games. I love them, and to be honest, I cannot wait until as of right now, which we don't really know all too much about it, but I cannot wait for Jedi Fallen Order. Even though it is made by EA, and EA have definitely been questionable as of late, I love how it's just a single player game. As of right now, that's all we know so far, is that it's a single player game. Things could change, you never know, I certainly hope not. But yeah, I'm so happy that it's just a single player game that Star Wars fans can enjoy, like getting the lore of Star Wars, kind of what happens to certain individuals after Revenge of the Sith, which is definitely a crucial part of Star Wars lore, kind of another gray area, aside from like Star Wars Rebels and Solo and Rogue One. But yeah, so that's just kind of my take on all the games. And hopefully with Battlefront 3, Battlefront 5, when that gets announced and gameplay footage is revealed for it, hopefully it will top this game. Because I think that this game is also really good as of now, because I'm glad I waited a year to get this game. Because if I would have had it a year prior, I probably wouldn't be playing it. But yeah, no, it's just lots of fun playing, this game and all those other Star Wars games. I always did have fun playing them. I always will have fun playing them. Who knows? Maybe I'll do a series on one of them someday. Maybe Jedi Fallen Order when that comes out. That'd be great. But yeah, so that's just kind of my history on Star Wars movies and games. When it comes down to toys, I might have too many Star Wars toys, and I say this with like a guilty looking face, like I might have too many. But the truth is, I don't, because I am a collector, and I use all these toys, or at least I try to use them all, and my stop motions and all that. So head on over to the channel, check them out. I'm totally plugging my own stop motions and all that right now, so you better believe I am. But yeah, so no, it's just I'm huge on the Star Wars toy. Yeah, so I'm huge on the Star Wars toys. I love them, even though I'm not too huge on them nowadays, because they're definitely restricted with what joint movements and all that they're able to do. But I love Star Wars toys from the 2009 and probably like 2006 to 2009, 10, 11. Huge on those ones. Big on those, because definitely the toys I kind of grew up on. But yeah, so hopefully whoever makes them go back to their original ways, because that's with that like 11 points of articulation or however many it was. So yeah, I guess that might do it, to be honest, with my my history of Star Wars and why I love it so much. Just have I really explained why I love Star Wars? I don't know, because I'm a nerd, and I love video games, and I love books, and I love toys and all that, and I love movies. So I mean, can't really go wrong. And I'm a big sci-fi guy too, even though like really the big sci-fi stuff that I love are Star Wars and Transformers. So I'm a sci-fi guy, and I love Star Wars. So yeah, enough said really. Yeah, no, but yeah, that's definitely sums up a lot. and also just because the stories that Star Wars provides. For those who haven't seen my prior videos of Transformers and wrestling, why I love those two so much. Big reason is characters and story development and plot and all that. I am huge on all that stuff. Like, I definitely value a lot of that stuff above everything else. Like, to me, it doesn't matter if the movie is, you know, good in quality or like good in filming or whatever. What matters to me is if they have a good story running for them. So that's always something I take a look at, and I kind of always encourage myself to do as I start watching movies. Like, don't look at how old the movie is or how, you know, bad it is in quality. Just look at how they did it, what ideas they had and what did and didn't happen. But yeah, so I guess that kind of does it for my passion of Star Wars. Hopefully you all were able to learn a little bit more about me, because at the end of the day, that's what this little trilogy of videos has been all about. It's been about me being able to introduce myself to you guys, even though I've been on YouTube for almost 6 years now. Is it 7? No, it wouldn't be 7. 2013 is when I started. It's almost 6 years. So yeah, it's hopefully this was hopefully I was able to provide you guys a little more information about me, and hopefully this was enjoyable. Up to this point, you're probably like, oh, I just had to watch him play a bunch of games. But I should have said this at the beginning. You didn't have to watch all this gameplay. You could have just gone and vacuumed or did your laundry or did your homework or whatever and just listen to me talk. Might be a little late to say that now. So I'm sorry about that. But yeah, hopefully you guys all enjoyed this video as much as I did, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day, is hopefully you guys enjoyed. If so, please do feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe, awesome stuff down below. And tap that notification bell, because that's the one I always forget to say, so don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can be informed of the exact time I upload a video, which is quintessential. So I'll leave it at this. Let's open this daily crate. I wonder what could be in it. I really do wonder what could be in this daily crate. It could be something totally new. Let's see. 500 credits. I don't believe it. I've gotten that every other time. Alright guys, take care, stay awesome, and until then, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.